Welcome back to DC Beer Show, everybody. We are at DC Beer across social media. Happy Restaurant Week. Brandy, what do you have for us on this fine evening?
I'm sadly not drinking. I have been fighting something, but I did have a good time drinking this weekend on Saturday at City State for the Women's Brew Culture Club. We had some really cool beers and everyone had a great time, but I am looking forward to a crowler of smoked beer from Triple Crossing that Frank brought back for me. So I haven't cracked into that. I'm waiting to feel better and have all my taste buds. So I am jazzed about that for sure. Yeah. Stein, what are you drinking?
I'm having Pizza Night Amber Lager from PCBC, also known as Port City Brewing Company. It's a wonderful little under 5% amber lager, beer formerly known as Polo Tmave, or, half dark in Czech. But because nobody speaks Czech, actually, there's like millions of people that speak Czech, but because most Americans don't have a background for what Polo Tmave means, we know what amber lager means. So I'm having a wonderful Pizza Night amber lager. It pairs well with pizza. It pairs well with nights. I haven't tried it before 12 noon, but it probably pairs with pizza in the morning or pizza in the evening or pizza at supper time. Jordan, my man, my mellow, what have you got in your glass this evening?
Keeping it hazy. Having a beer that showcases Strata hops supported by Mosaic. Hazy IPA from my good friends at Third Hill Brewing Company. This is the Thank You Matt IPA. Just sipping some of that. I have a lot of those in the fridge from their grand opening last weekend. And also the brew news with Matt coming on as the head brewer. So thought I would celebrate Matt in that way.
I would say, shameless plug, you can read Jordan's article on Third Hill over at dcbeer.com. Nicely done. Brandy, I selfishly hope that you saved that crowler that Frank brought. I believe the Triple Crossing Rauch beer is Cinder, until our beer share, which is, of course, this Sunday at DC Brow. You can RSVP. It's not too late. dcbeer.com/newsletter. I'm continuing the theme like Jordan. I have a hazy, but it's a hazy pale ale. It's from Brewbilt out of Northern California. Brewbilt sells brew houses and brewing equipment, and they thought, what better way to demonstrate it than to actually build a brewery out of Brewbilt equipment. This is Simcoe, Citra, and Eureka hops, and it's brewed by Austin, who used to be the head brewer at Wheatland Spring and is now brewing at Brewbilt. So good looking out, Austin. It's always good to hear from you. A hazy pale ale, 5.8% in the mail. It's a wonderful thing. All right, we've got a few events and things to mention. Brandy, please.
Hey, so I wanted to not talk so much because my voice is stupid. Hopefully it sounds sexy. Does it sound sexy, guys? Just say yes.
Yeah, you
So
Yes.
so I was scrolling through Instagram and saw that Restaurant Week is coming up. And I know that Greg is on this show, but it was Blue Jacket's post that said there was Restaurant Week from the 28th through the 3rd of September, and the food that they posted looks hella good. So I think I might try to swing by there. So y'all should check that out. Silver Branch is doing a Belgian beer flight on the 25th, which is today, and then tomorrow, the 26th, Saturday, including mussels, frites. So I kind of want to go to that, but I am super busy, so I won't be able to go. So if you guys go, let me know how it is. And then Saturday, tomorrow, is Whelan's Beer and Wine up in Potomac's grand opening. I actually went and saw Emma and Greg this past weekend to check the place out, and it's gorgeous. So if you find your way up there, you should definitely go check them out. And they have beer on draft and wine, and it's lovely. So you should definitely check that out. And as Jake already mentioned, our beer share is Sunday, and I'm super excited. Hopefully my taste buds are back in business. So I'm curious who's gonna bring what. Like, Who's the Andy Award going to go to this time? I don't know. Got to show up and find out. Jordan, do you have any events going on?
So a ton of events going on our last weekend in August. Tomorrow is MegaFest. DC's very own Soul Megas. They are hosting, Soul Megas hosting the only Black-owned beer fest and block party experience that I'm aware of. It's in the DMV. It's at Sandlot and Anacostia. You can definitely check out our socials or their socials for details about the event. But this will be celebrating their 4th year anniversary. So definitely we'll be there to support them and get all the block party vibes before summer comes to an end next month. Outside of our DC Beer Share, we have a couple of trivia events. There's always Capital Trivia at Other Half, hosted by yours truly. There's also always trivia at Kingfisher on Tuesdays. So a lot of things to look forward to in the middle of the week. But if you're looking forward to doing something on a weekend, next weekend, DC Brow will be hosting their Beer 2K. It's a beer run for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So definitely stop by and see our friends at DC Brow. That'll be an awesome event. And I'm sure everyone will appreciate you all support. Following that, on September 8th, Sovereign, they're having their summer series. It's a fruit bowl of lambics. So if you are trying to get your lambics in before we're swarmed with Marzens and all of the October fest beers that are to come in September, you can get you a fruit bowl of lambics at the Sovereign in DC. And lastly, for September 10th, that's a Sunday, second Sunday in September, the Noma Beer Runners, they're having a beer run. So definitely support them. It's going to be awesome. I always like to get out there and sweat myself a little bit, but this will be a beer focused run and walk. No stress if you don't want to run, but it'll be along the Metro Branch Trail, known affectionately as the MBT. So you can choose your distance, 2 miles or 5 miles, but about 3 or 4 brewery stops along the way to make it worth your while. So those are the events we're looking forward to over here at DC Beer. And obviously, stay tuned to our Patreon and our social media for other secret or exclusive DC Beer events. But yeah, Stein, you tracking anything?
I'm, keeping my eyes out. There's so much going on. We are in the thick of it in terms of ramp up towards festival season. It's really funny because I was at some better beer shops, some of the women-owned beer shops like Craft Beer Cellar and the Brew Shop in Arlington, and it really felt like a lull in terms of people out of town on vacation. And I was just like, oh, that's nice. I wish I knew what that was like. Let me just buy enough beer for 10 people that are all at some beach somewhere right now. No, we're super excited for Soul Mega. As we know, the only Black-owned beer festival in DC. We are hella pumped for the share. Come see us at DC Brow. Longtime stewards of better beer in the brewing community in the district. Who's going to win the Andy Award? I'm excited because Brandy's excited. And when she's got the juice, I turn the juice on and I just get passionate. When you feel other people excited and just juiced for things, it gets the juices pumping and you get hyped because other people are feeling hyped.
You know who always hypes me up?
Who's that?
My girl, Amber.
Shout to Paunchy.
She hypes me the hell up. And I want to give so much shout outs to Amber because she always brings people to the beer share and to the Women's Brew Culture Club. And I'm just so grateful for her. And I'm so glad that she's such a staple in the beer community in DC. And now my friend.
Amber recently visited Pittsburgh for the Barrel and Flow Festival, and we have a special conversation with her now.
Welcome to a special edition of the DC Beer Show. It's Jordan, Haze Master. I have our lovely lady, Brandy, with me.
Hey, hey, hey.
Then we have our lovely lady, Amber. You may know her as Paunchy, but we have her in the house. She's here to show some love and tell us some stories about all the great beer we missed in Pittsburgh some lovely weekends ago. Amber?
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
That's excellent. So the people want to know, There's this thing called Barrel and Flow. Can you tell us about that?
So Barrel and Flow is a Black-owned beer festival in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Recently, this year, voted #1 beer festival in the United States. by
Numero uno?
USA Today.
Numero uno?
Numero uno.
Okay.
The #1. And it was originally known as Fresh Fest. Some of you may know it by that, but now known as Barrel and Flow. And it really is just the penultimate event for Black brewers, Black beer drinkers, and I mean anybody.
Right.
The city of Pittsburgh likes.
Right.
You know,
Beer tends to bring people together like that. So
precisely.
I got you.
And good beer.
So it's in Pittsburgh. Is it every August?
It's every second week of August in Pittsburgh.
Okay. What would you say? How many breweries did you see? Anywhere between? Are we talking 10? We talking 20? We talking?
No. I believe this year there was 30 collabs, I
Sheesh.
believe. And then there was also different vendors there, such as Soul Mega,
Okay.
who didn't have a collab, but was there pouring their beer as well.
Okay.
So probably all around, probably about 15
Sheesh.
different beer situations, if not a little more. Don't quote me on that.
No,
Off the record.
No,
Just kidding.
I'm not mad at it. Food?
A lot. Yes. So there was a delicious chicken and waffles truck.
Oh Lord, food trucks. Oh gosh.
I had a caramel apple
Oh.
waffle. And they did like little cinnamon toast crunch little bits on
Oh.
top of it. And the chicken was bomb too. And then they had barbecue. They had a burger person that was doing things there. I didn't even look. It was a very long day. I didn't make it around all the food. I found food immediately because it was necessary and ate that.
I know that the listeners are going to be really excited about your recap that you wrote. Like Amber wrote a beautiful piece, pretty much just a recap of Barrel and Flow, including some of her gorgeous pictures, which is kind of how I met Amber. We've asked her to document some really cool DC beer events, and we're very thankful for that. But I noticed that in a lot of your pictures and a lot of your posts, there was a lot of DC representation.
Yeah.
Did you, because I know some of the local Black-owned breweries weren't able to make it. I know some of them did, obviously, but did you bring beer? Because I know that there's a bottle share, right?
Did
Yeah.
she bring
Yes.
beer?
Can you tell everybody about that? Like how you kind of
Yeah.
represented as DC Beers and unpaid ambassador, kind of?
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did know that some folks weren't actually going to be able to make it up. So I brought up Strange Fruit Brewing Subtle Nod. I also brought up Jordan's collab with
Pardon, Miss
Astro
Five.
Lab.
Gosh.
I also had a few Zinga beers in
Oh,
my
yeah.
fridge in
Like
my
Viking, yeah.
because I wasn't sure if he was coming or not. But I was like, I love this beer anyway, and I'm bringing it. So yeah, like everything that I brought was from the area, though, Black owned or not.
That's excellent.
How was it received? You know, because I
oh,
know there was so many
the
beers
folks-
there.
First of all, the folks love Subtle Nod.
Oh,
Okay.
They loved Subtle Nod.
DC represent.
Um,
DC.
And I actually had brought a whole 4-pack of that up there to like give a few individual cans to some friends. But they loved that.
Good.
They also really enjoyed, I forgot to mention, I brought up Peachy Keen,
Okay.
which was Urban Gardens collab with Red Bear.
Yep.
And that was a hit too. That was
Yeah.
a big hit. Artemis, I only gave to very few people because it was my last can.
Hey.
And I
Don't
was
worry.
being selective. But everybody who had that, they were like, you got this out? That's good. I'm like, I know. It's so good. It's staying in the refrigerator that I don't open unless I'm literally taking it out to go somewhere.
Right.
So, but yeah, like everything I brought was well received. And then, Lipco was there, Liquid Intrusion, and they brought their staples, of course. There was a lot of really, really, really good representation from the area and the folks in this area, the other, as you would say, influencers, those that Baltic Bellinins, folks of
Yep.
those, they brought great beer as well. So it was a really good time. That bottle share is, woo, everything.
Had you gone before?
Yeah, so this is my 3rd year, so you kind of know the gist. Like once you've been at least once, how things are gonna flow. You can make a better decision about what you're gonna do in your downtime. Of course, I hit Cinderlands. If you're ever in Pittsburgh, Cinderlands, it's a brewery, but they also have food. They have one of the best burgers. One of the best burgers.
I
So
gotta
much
go.
the best.
I kept
I
following
went
you.
twice.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh,
I gotta go.
I went twice.
I gotta go.
I think I have a good question.
Yeah.
I know that it's Barrel and Flow. I want to go to Barrel and Flow so badly. It's one of the things that it's on my bucket list. But I think that DC, and it would take probably a while for DC to get to this level. How do you think DC could pull off some sort of Barrel and Flow festival? And I know that MegaFest is trying to be the first Black beer-owned festival in DC. How do you think we can recreate some sort of sister festival to Barrel and Flow in DC? How do you think that we could do that?
100% honest, I feel like MegaFest is that. So I actually got the opportunity to pour for Soul Mega for a few hours at Barrel and Flow because Elliot needed a little break. And, talking to everybody and just like, hey, DC, 4 hours away, real quick drive, MegaFest, 2 weeks. It's going to be their anniversary, and the DC Black-owned beer brands, along with Black-owned winery from the area, is going to be there. It's going to be a good time. Word of mouth, talking it up. And then the fact that all of the Black brewers in this area, they're so connected and they work so well with each other. MegaFest can only grow from here. And I think MegaFest, it's not an answer, but would be that next destination for especially like the Black beer culture coming out and picking another place other than Pittsburgh to convene and see each other. Because right now, we kind of all, like, Barrel and Flow always feels like a family reunion because it's all our people that we know from all over, but we only get to see them once a year unless, like, we're personally traveling. So MegaFest has the great opportunity of becoming, like, that second destination where everybody goes, because not only is DC a cool city to come visit, but the brewers here are producing great beer. So it's worth your time to show up.
And it's also a central location between the North and the South, at least on the East Coast. I'm from North Carolina, and DC is not that far from North Carolina. I would love a future of DC Black-owned breweries hosting a Barrel and Flow type, huge event here. And
maybe that's MegaFest.
Well, yes, but maybe not around the same time. I feel like you need needs to be around like at least 6 months apart. Because it could be like a double twice a year family reunion.
Biannual joint.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Amber, I want you to tell everybody real quick before we wrap up, because everyone's going to read your article and look at your gorgeous, gorgeous pictures about the event. Just give what was your favorite part, and why endorse people heading to from DC to Barrel and Flow next year. And also, don't they do collab beer? Like, weren't you trying to get a collab?
They do.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So Barrel and Flow has the opportunity for collaborations every year. Makers, artisans, influencers, quote unquote, and other brewers, homebrew, or just smaller breweries. They have the opportunity to pair with local Pittsburgh breweries, along with some of national brands such as Engert, Trogs, to do a beer specifically for the festival. And, there's applications, they come out in January, everybody applies, and they inform you if you get them. And sometimes you have the opportunity, if you know a brewery, you can reach out and say, hey, do you want to do something together if you're going, bop, 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 bop. Which some people end up doing too. One of my favorites, as I wrote, is from Honey. She had an unofficial collab because she collabed with this brand last year. And they did a Nutcracker last year, so they did a second version this year that had butterfly pea tea in it and lychee. It was delicious. It wasn't a beer, but it was so good. It was dangerous, so good. But my favorite part of the festival, honestly, it was the bottle share, because the bottle share is like the festival before the festival.
Yeah.
And everybody not only is relaxed, nobody's working, nobody is having to focus on talking to the public back and forth. They're just hanging out. It's a good time. It's relaxed. It's a great opportunity to be able to meet some brewers that you've maybe followed for forever in a chill environment. And also the music was great. They kept us fed, so nobody was too a little this way, a little that way. And it's just
That's important.
It's just an amazing time. It's
Yeah.
an amazing time. And what I would say as far as, anybody possibly interested or never heard of it before today is that Barrel and Flow, it's, just like people travel for Snally, how people travel for, Erie Jungle to Florida. Barrel and Flow is one of those. Barrel and Flow is definitely worth it. Not only is the festival fantastic, but the city is great. You're gonna be able to try beers that you probably never had access to. Some of the brewers out in California, people who don't have distribution outside of their state, like this is your opportunity to really, really be able to delve into some stuff that you just keep seeing little splash posts and people were posting, and then you get to meet me and and the other people that love to come to this festival. We welcome everybody with open arms. There's no strangers there. You come, you have fun, you vibe, you gonna have a good time.
You heard it from Amber, folks. Everyone, we need to just create like a DC beer caravan up to Barrel and Flow next year.
I got 2 extra seats in my car.
And if you are listening, everybody, we are going to make MegaFest the next Barrel and Flow. We don't want to compete with Barrel and Flow because we love y'all and we respect, but I think it'd be great to bring a lot of attention and to the Black-owned breweries and the beer in the DC area, and to maybe bring even more Black-owned breweries to the area.
Yeah.
So thank you for writing this piece, Amber.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you for always showing up and being like the biggest brand ambassador to literally every single brewery in DC, and one of DC Beer's biggest fans / fan members. And Amber said bottle shares are the way to go. So come check out DC Beer's bottle shares, because we're all family.
Yes.
We got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So love you, Amber.
Yeah.
I was writing the newsletter today, guys, for September, and the weekend that I'm gone in Ohio, I don't know why I'm going to Ohio, but of course it's the exact weekend that every single Oktoberfest is happening. The Wheatland Spring, the other half, Silver Branch, like everybody's Oktoberfest is that weekend. Because obviously it's the beginning of Oktoberfest season. So disappointed, but I expect to get pictures from all of you guys. maybe I'll go find one in Ohio, in Cleveland.
What I'm hearing is we should sample everything for you to make sure you don't drink any duds.
Yeah.
And just weed out the wheat from the shaft, and then you just get the wheat.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Like
That's what I
do
heard
some
you saying.
QA/QC on like the fest beers and the Merzens over here, but there's a rich Teutonic Germanic brewing tradition in Cleveland, and I think you'll be doing all right over there. Like we'll miss you.
I just
But-
don't know when the
but
wedding is,
beer-wise,
but I'm definitely gonna go find it. And I'm missing Solace's Lagerfest too. Like, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. So if any of you guys have Cleveland beer recommendations, I'm gonna leave the wedding and the wedding party and go drink beer.
Oh, we can do it right here. This can be like
Yeah.
beer tourism service journalism. Everyone knows Great Lakes. You want to hit the brew pub because they have experimentals and one-offs, and because if those don't, tickle your fancy, they have Edmund Fitzgerald, which is just a very nice American porter. Masthead for a bunch of stuff, and Fatheads for all things hoppy. Just really, really good IPAs coming out of Fatheads out that way.
Jazzed. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of travel, to Stein's point and also to Brandy's point, a special shout out to good old Splain. He I was in New York City this past weekend, or excuse me, last weekend, and he connected me with some good beer people, as well as Stein did as well. I was unfortunately I didn't make it out to Brooklyn, so sorry, but I did make it out to the other half in Rockefeller Center. So shout out to Splain for connecting me with Dave over at other half. So it's nice to have beer friends, and it's nice that beer is international. So Brandy, I think you'll be in good hands in Cleveland.
I will, but now Matt's going to listen to this and then he's going to be mad at me because I was bitching about missing all the Oktoberfest. So I love you, Matt.
Look, like there are things we do for love. It's understandable.
I mean, I've never been to Cleveland, so there's that. So I get to go. But yeah, I'm missing all my friends' stuff here. It's fine. I'll get over it.
But now, shifting gears just a bit, Jake, you had a good conversation with one of the leaders and creators of one of the festivals to rule them all in DC.
Absolutely. Had the chance to sit down with Greg Engert, beer director, managing partner for Neighborhood Restaurant Group, which means Blue Jacket, Sovereign, Church Key, the Risticos, et al. And so we discussed really all things Snally, and we'll take it away from there. Welcome back, Greg. We've got new breweries this year. What are a few that you're most excited about at Snallygaster?
Let's see here, Jake. Good to see you, buddy. It's another exciting year. We are, gearing up. We gave ourselves an extra week of preparation because the way that the calendar lined up, we moved it to October 14th. So we're really excited about that. About 50 new breweries. So just under a third of the breweries that we'll have on hand this year are going to be new. And they really run the gamut of different styles of beer made and certainly different locations from which they're coming. I think, as far as like the classic traditional brewers from America, we have Bierstadt Lager House, which is fantastic. We've been trying to get them in for a couple of years now. Live Oak is going to be on hand, kind of a throwback old school brewer that makes fantastic German style beers.
That'll make Mike Stein very happy. It'll make me happy too, but it'll make Mike in particular.
Yeah, I'm basically listing off the beers for you guys. Brewery St. X is coming in. That's our brewery that we have down in New Orleans, which will be fun. But by virtue of going to New Orleans so much, we've become friends with Eric and Leah over at Parlo Beer Lab, which is one of the best little breweries I've had in a long time. They're coming up. They make great classic styles as well. And then Joey Pepper has his new brewing operation, Schenker Beer, coming in as well. So that's going to be really fun. Really wanted to make sure that we had a good list of like incoming newcomers from the import side as well. I think we're always trying to round out the beer list stylistically, basically trim down the IPA, sour, and stout numbers in favor of not just what Americans tend to make, which is lager and maybe a little bit of British beer, but also Belgian style beers or sour beers that are a little bit different than what you'd expect. So we have Verzet coming in from West Flanders. They make fantastic Flemish oud bruin styles, a style that it's hard to come by nowadays. Stateside, Oberon from northern France, they make fantastic saison that they refer to as Bière de Garde. We have Eichbaum and Frau Gruber from Germany, bringing some of their classic kind of German style beers, which will be awesome. And then I guess some of the more hype brewers that people are happy to see either returning or just coming in for the first time. We have the Alchemist, Angry Chair, Bottle Logic, brewers like that. So there's a bunch of really great new stuff this year we're excited about.
So the Alchemist, Greg Noonan, famed for the Vermont New England style pale ale IPA, that Conan yeast. Blue Jacket has cans throughout Snallygaster. Is whoever's pouring the Alchemist, are they going to hand me like a can of the Heady Topper Cocoa Banger and like send me on my way?
Not this year. That was we did that back when we were still doing tickets for beers and things like that. But no, We're gonna stick to Blue Jackets can um, availability. One of the reasons for that is because this is ultimately a fundraiser for Arcadia, our nonprofit, the Center for Sustainable Food and Agriculture, and Blue Jacket's very generous with their cans, so we tend to stick with them, obviously, and it's good exposure for Blue Jacket. With the Alchemist, like you said, I don't think that would be intelligent for us to just be handing out full cans. We're going to be doing tastes of that because obviously, with over 400 beers or so, everybody wants to taste lots of different things. And to be fair, I don't know what they're sending quite yet. Though the brewer list is set in stone, we tend to find out exactly what's coming later. If I had to guess, I'd imagine we're getting cans of both of those. That tends to be what they send out into the wild, but you never know.
So with Savor, the BA does like a little massaging and management with regards to who sends what and tries to keep a stylistic balance. Do you have a back and forth with some of the breweries like, hey, could you please bring X instead of Y, mayhaps?
It's it's very tricky because on the one hand, we want the brewers to send what they are most proud of, right? And I think that's one of the reasons that our roster is so diverse from a brewing perspective. Is that seems to be one of the ways we can kind of guarantee a a stylistic variation, like you mentioned, because it is so hard to kind of be like, thanks for those two, but could you send us something different from your portfolio? I mean, there's 100 and 50 plus brewers here, so managing all of them to give us exactly what we want would be a massive puzzle. We do it though. I mean, we have definitely gone back to certainly to brewers that we know are a little bit more flexible. And honestly, oftentimes a lot of brewers will send us some options, or if they're direct shipping, they're sending us a bunch of beer anyways that we're going to fold into events around Snallygaster or just pour at our properties otherwise. So there's a little bit of leeway, but it certainly is not like we create a list and send it to them. I think with Savor, they had to do it um, even more so than we did because they had to be so careful about pairings with food, and had to really work on that. And so I remember when we would work with BA on Savor, we would send them what we kind of wanted to do, and they would come back and be like, "Would you mind this or that? Because the way that the pairing shook out, we'd like for you to pair to this and that." That was an easier conversation to have than just to write somebody back and be like, we have too many barrel aged imperial stouts or something like that. But we have done that in the past, and like I said, that's one of the reasons that the list of brewers that is coming is so geographically diverse. Also, because this ensures that those imports are typically not sending us hazy IPA. You don't have to worry about that.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that someone in Germany makes a lovely hazy IPA, but we don't go to
We
Germany
don't need
for
that. Yeah,
hazy IPA.
exactly.
Speaking of Germany, pre-COVID, Snally was famed, at least by me, for having gravity kegs coming in.
Right.
COVID seems to have put a bit of a squash on that. Is this still going to be the case this year? Like a boy can dream.
Yeah, it is unfortunately the case this year. And, the gravity kegs were, just a passion project, frankly, for Shelton Brothers Imports, which also folded during the pandemic. They worked with a number of Franconian brewers. They, at no profit at all, in fact, at a loss to them and probably to us too, they got these cool gravity kegs over from little tiny brewers that would never send beer otherwise. Um, I do believe that one day we will be able to do that again, but not this year. As you know, imports are we're seeing fewer and fewer imports, and there's a million reasons for that. We don't have to get into right now, but it's just not what it was. It's the availability of imports isn't there. However, when there's holes in the market, enterprising people jump up and look into it, and I think that there's definitely some people out there saying, well, maybe there's some room for in the import market if we bootstrap it and kind of work hand to hand with some of the better beer bars and retailers across the U.S. To bring in small amounts of really cool stuff. And so I'm cautiously optimistic for imports in the future and for the possibility of bringing Franconian gravity kegs back. In the interim, a number of these gravity kegs have found their way to some really good brewers, and I would not be surprised to find a host of them filled by American brewers of German style beers at Snallygaster. It's
I
not quite
mean,
the same thing, but it's cool.
yeah, but I wouldn't mind either Bierstadt Lagerhaus or even Blue Jackets Row Gunzel doing for the company Helles in Gravity K, for example,
I
because
think we can make that
we've
happen.
seen that before.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we'll have some of that, but yeah, but there's nothing quite like a tiny German brewery you've never heard of sending a beer you've never heard of in a gravity keg that somehow is in amazing shape with beautiful natural effervescence once it gets here. So we'll keep pushing to try to get that back for sure.
Cool. You mentioned that like the churn, that there are 50-ish new breweries. That seems like a lot more in terms of turnover this year than in previous years. Correct?
It's more. I don't know if it's a lot more, but it is a bit more. Yeah, I mean, well, we can go into it, why and everything else if you want. I mean, I have, it was definitely a decision that we made, and one that's going to continue, I believe, into the future.
Yeah, please, go ahead and expand on this. I know that like there are some locals that aren't pouring this year that were in previous years. Uh, Feelings may be hurt, which is understandable because
Yeah.
this is, I think, DC's marquee event. Uh,
Yes, of course. So yeah, there's a lot to this. Let me unpack it. So first off, I think part of this comes to the question about like how do we improve Snallygaster every year, right? Um, and or how do we evolve it, and hope to improve it. We're trying to improve the guest experience, and part of the way that we do that is to be very um, communicative with our guests about what they are looking for. And year after year after year, there's always a request for more new brewers and specific brewers, and we're always on the hunt for all of these things. And so we've, over time, if you look back, every year have been increasing the amount of new brewers we're bringing on. Now, back in the old days, the way that we handled doing that without hurting feelings was just to add more brewers and more beers. And if you go back, even as early as 2012 to 2013 to 14 to 15 to 16, you'll see the list growing as we grew the event. But really, one of the reasons we were doing that is because we wanted to include more new brewers while not having to let go of some of the old ones, right? Recently, it's become very apparent that the site that we have is packed. And the amount of beers that we have, with the amount of brewers that are pouring those beers, is the number that we can do and we can't do anymore. As it is, and I'll talk more about other things that we're going to try to change up this year to make things better. We like the amount of beers that we have in the space that we have. It creates the right amount of lines so that none of the lines are overwhelmingly long. But to add more beers on this site as we have it would simply encroach on other things people want, like more shade, more seats, more room to stand and congregate, more porta potties, an expanded kid zone, like all these different things that we are looking to do to make the experience of enjoying the beers better.
yeah.
Bigger VIP areas, more porta potties for the VIPs, all this stuff that we are working on for this year. So we're locked into a number of brewers, a number of beers. So trying to balance that number with the need for new meant that we had to make some really difficult decisions this year. I will say, as the last part of that, is we also take into account, geographic distribution as well as stylistic distribution, ABV distribution. And so by bringing in a lot of these new brands, it was in an effort to make sure that we had some stylistic stuff. Obviously wanted to bring in new hype brewers that gets more guests excited, and make sure that people keep coming back and we still sell the right amount of tickets and still raise the right amount of number of money for Arcadia. So all this stuff kind of factored in to these decisions. I will say that one of the things, we don't know what we're going to do like next year or the year after. We always kind of regroup after the event and take into account how it went and how we're going to change again. One of the things we've talked about doing is rotating some of the brewers in and out, so that, even if you can't be in every year, you can be in from time to time. We're in a very special circumstance though, because like I said, we started this event back really at Roostico in 2007. in the back lot. It grew to the point where Alexandria said, "We'd appreciate it if you don't do this in uh, the Rustico parking lot anymore," because 4,000 people just showed up to an event that should have been 1,000 people. And so that's when we moved into DC and started calling it Snallygaster. Um, we had a lot of locals then, and we kept adding, like I said, and building. A brewery like Other Half or Firestone Walker, or you name it, when they start their event, they're pretty selective right from the start, right? Um, there's a lot of local brewers who aren't invited to Firestone Walker Invitational or Other Half's Green City events or things like that. Like if you go to New York, many. So I think for us, it's just an unfortunate kind of circumstance. The way it worked out was that in order to keep evolving the beer list and giving people new stuff, because that's what we've always kind of been known for. It's like you come to Church Key or Sovereign or Shelter to drink a lot of cool stuff you haven't had before. To do that without just keep increasing the size of the festival, which we can't, meant that we're going to have to make some rough, tough decisions.
Yeah. I think, and fair enough. And so you mentioned soliciting feedback for the listeners. If you haven't attended Snally, once you attend, you are then sent a survey, and it's an exit survey like the week after. Hey, how do we do? What could we do better? And
Yeah.
so, how does that feedback process work at NRG in terms of receiving the feedback and then processing it and then acting on it? So,
Yeah.
what are some past examples that where you've all made changes
What
based
they
off of
changed
that?
excellently. Well, first off, the good news, the thing that's great about us as like a restaurant group running a beer fest is that we literally live and die by feedback every day. So we're soliciting feedback and utilizing feedback from Open Table, Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google, Facebook, Instagram, every day, all day across 24 properties. So we're really, really attuned to what our guests are thinking and feeling, and then putting that into action. So that's something that we really love. Um, I think the biggest and best example I can give you is when we a few years back ripped the Band-Aid off and completely changed the festival from a ticketed festival where you paid a smaller entry fee and that came with a certain amount of tickets, and then you paid as you went. Um, we had been getting consistent feedback, to turn it into an all-you-can unlimited tasting festival, and we did the calculations, thought it through to the point where we felt like it was the right move to make, but also kind of crossed our fingers, and it ended up working out really well. That's like the best example, right? I think moving the event to Pennsylvania Avenue in the first place was another example of that. We've been looking for different spaces, but we really, after that last one in Nats near Nat Stadium in the adjacent parking lot, really got the feedback that it had been enough time in that space. It wasn't that inviting. It got pretty crowded, and so we kept looking for that. So those are the two biggest ones. But there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, from the types of food vendors we bring in. I mean, this year we're going to increase the food vendors based on some feedback about food lines. We're going to try to increase the visibility of the food vendors. Is another thing I think we have. And then sometimes we just we just don't execute exactly how we'd want. I think we were really good about getting people in through the line and for a number of years, really good. Like it was exceptionally fast. And last year we had a bit of a road bump. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about why that is and making sure that it won't happen this year. People will get processed faster than before. So there's a lot of different ways that we've taken all of this kind of into consideration. And to be honest, it's one of the things that's most fun and exciting about doing this event every year is getting to kind of keep honing it, sharpening it, and making it even better. So we love doing that.
Cool. You've now mentioned it twice, and I think that it bears mentioning and repeating that this is for a good cause. It's for Arcadia Farms. I think that a lot of us in the beer world get caught up on the fact that we can drink Floodlands beers here and people in Seattle can't drink them. And it's funny for me to take a picture and be like, haha, look, I just got this beer. But this is, it's more than a beer fest. It's ultimately for a good cause.
It's our biggest fundraiser every year for Arcadia Center for Sustainable Food and Agriculture. It's a nonprofit that our founder, Michael Babin, started back in 2011. It's located near Mount Vernon in Alexandria, Virginia. And it is an incredible organization dedicated to doing what's right with food and for people in the local community. So we operate these incredible mobile markets that we serve as an aggregate, first of all, for local farmers, where we're purchasing locally grown fruits and vegetables and also locally raised meats and things like that, and bringing them into underserved neighborhoods to provide outstanding local nutritious food that is simply not available to a lot of communities, which is absolutely terrible and unfortunate. We can go into these neighborhoods, pop up these farmers markets, and sell real food to people who don't normally have access to it at really great prices. We take SNAP and all types of payment to make sure that everybody who wants to eat well can eat well. We also have this veteran farmers program at Arcadia where we're teaching veterans to be farmers and trying to and acting as a pipeline to the farming industry in America to provide new farmers, which is really outstanding. Educating kids on the farm with these great summer camp programs about real food, good food, and working to get real good food into school lunches and things like that. So it's an amazing organization, and one that every time you buy a ticket to Snallygaster, you are directly supporting. So check out their stuff. It's www.arcadia.org and see what they got going on. It's an amazing organization.
Thanks, Greg. One final question is that I think for many of our listeners, they don't realize that NRG has partnered and opened up at Brewery St. X in New Orleans, which you mentioned at the top of the interview. Tell us a little bit about that. Because I assume there's a relationship there. If you know what sorts of beers they might bring, give us a taste.
Sure.
And might we see them at NRG spots in DC?
Exactly. So and it's funny. We actually did one quick shipment recently up to Church Key and Sovereign, or Church Key and Shelter, where we poured some firkins and some kegs of beer from Brewery St. X. So Brewery St. X is a brewery we opened back in April. It is a full restaurant, bar, and brewery on the edge of the Warehouse District in New Orleans. Only about 4 blocks from the Superdome and Smoothie King Center, and about a 15-minute walk to the French Quarter. So near everything, but not quite in the middle of the action. It's a cool place to kind of escape some of the craziness of the quarter. And it's co-located with a great barbecue concept that we also own called Devil Mood Barbecue. Our chef, Shannon Bingham, is the chef behind both, 2 different menus. So a lot of the food that we have at St. X is kind of barbecue adjacent, fantastic tavern style food. Our head brewer is Alex Flores. He came to us from Ribbon South. Amazing brewer. Harold Dale is our assistant brewer. And they work closely with Ro Gunzel, our director of brewing ops for all of Neighborhood Restaurant Group and Blue Jacket, and myself to create the beer program down there. We're known for making classic lagers, fully well-aged, all naturally carbonated, decocted, step mashed, beautiful, clean, refreshing, subtly nuanced beers. So we'll probably see some of that. We love British style cask ale. So I'm sure we're going to pop a firkin onto the table and dispense something under 4% alcohol. That's probably malt forward. So I can tell you that that's basically what we focus on. I could see a little bit of, we also like to do some fruited sours as well. So you might see some of that coming up.
Thanks for joining us, Greg. SnallygasterDC.com. VIP sold out, I think, in record time this year, but general admission tickets still available. The bestest beer festival in DC, possibly the bestest beer festival anywhere. Great. Thank you as always. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Jake. See you soon, bud.
You certainly watch this space at dcbeer.com as well as at dcbeer across social media. for all things Snally as we start to ramp up, start hearing about particular beers and various events around that. All right, who wants to take us out? Jordan.
I would say thank you guys for listening and supporting DC Beer. We really do appreciate you. A lot of things on the horizon to come, but the one thing I would add to your calendar, if it's not already there, is tomorrow is Soul Mega's MegaFest. So meet us there. We'll be there in full effect. Definitely come out to support one of our very local Black-owned breweries in Soul Mega. Love to see you there. And then if you're interested, if Saturday doesn't work for you, then definitely check out DC Beer's social so you can subscribe to our newsletter, the newsletter Brandy mentioned. And also you can become a Patreon member and support us and also attend our exclusive events like our August beer share and all the beer shares to come. So cheers to you guys. Happy summer. College football season starts next week. I'm excited. All the beer will be being poured. And stay safe and stay cool out there.
Cheers, everybody.
All right, bye, buddy. Be well.
Bye. See you soon.